Welcome to Team Peri's Step Out of Line podcast, featuring co-hosts Peri and Lori Finkelstein. For our podcast, Peri's voice is represented by a communication device, or rather AI technology, to ensure that all can hear and understand her speech. Together, they explore, meet, and share inspirational stories with guests who have made a positive impact in today's world. This podcast resonates with our hope to make this world a better place one step at a time through love, acceptance, and uplifting conversations.
Oh my gosh, I think I have a rebellious streak just naturally in me. When somebody tells me I have to do something, the first thing that I say is why. If I don't understand it, I don't necessarily follow instruction. And then if I don't agree with their reason, I just kind of do my own thing. And I've done that my whole life. I've never been able to fit into somebody's mold. So,
Jason, you were last on the podcast in 2021. How has your step out of line moment changed since we last spoke?
I'm a curious person. Like when I think about being in line, I can't just stay in line. I make Rhonda stay and then I go and see what's happening up there and what's happening over here and how much longer is it now. I know that's a different type of line. I think of stepping out of line as like getting outside the bounds. And so I'm always tiptoeing outside the bounds of what I'm supposed to do. We recently worked together as a couple on a film. It was an animated film about the character David. And for me, it was a stepping out of the line of what we do in music and to try and attempt something else. We learned a lot about ourselves during that process. And so that was a good thing for us. I think at 51 years old now, in my old age, I think I've spent so much time erasing the line, I don't even see it anymore.
he just naturally has a free spirit that doesn't follow instruction well either. That is one thing that we both have in common. He's always adventure minded. And so he'll go, well, let's try it this way. And there's no reason why other than he just wants to try it. He just lives his life that way. And I've just learned to follow. And I would say 98% of the time, he's led me down a really fun adventure or an unbeaten path, or we've done something so different that everybody's like, how'd you do that? And we're like, I don't know. We just tried. That's just the way Jason always thinks. I think that's his wiring of his brain. And it's an exciting adventure with him all the time.
You met each other. Was it high school?
We started dating in high school. We've known each other since, I probably know who she was since I was 8 years old. She probably didn't notice me till maybe about 12 years old. We've known each other for a long time.
And did you know as soon as you saw her, this is it? This is going to be the person for me?
I was definitely intrigued. In sixth grade, I wasn't thinking about marriage, but I was definitely thinking that she was hot in that ponytail. I think in high school, after about a year or so of dating, I knew that this was the one for me. There's so much advice out there and thoughts on what marriage looks like. A lot of people say don't get married young because you're going to grow and you're going to grow apart. And we just took the mindset, we were married young, but everybody's worldview and life changes over a period of years. We just decided to do it together. We're completely different people than we were 30 years ago, and we've become those people together. So yeah. I don't regret it at all.
Oh.
We should write a Hallmark movie.
The newest thing that we've done to step out of line is we created our own publishing company for our own trilogy that we've written. And in this publishing company, we just decided to do it differently. We've done 30 years in the music business, and we know what happens to artists, singers, musicians, some of the big dogs of the game. It's pretty brutal to work with them. And so we just wanted to do something that was completely different and upstream from everyone else. And we wanted to put the author as our center and always honor the author. We've just felt like in the music world, through all of our experiences, that somehow honoring the artist got lost. And then your artist becomes disgruntled and bitter and angry. And then their writing tanks and then they're not as creative. And we just had seen that for so long. So we just wanted to do it differently, switch it up and go, no, our authors are important because if we can make them happy, if we can make them feel honored, if we can make them feel like they are a value part of the company, that we can't do the company without them, then they will create more. They will create better. They'll have better product. So I think that's how we've recently kind of stepped out of line, is just to do it differently than how the industry is doing it right now.
How long was that brewing in your minds to say, we want to have a publishing company?
We've actually never dreamed of it, never saw it coming. Even just becoming authors was a surprise to us. It came as a spurt of creativity out of an extended period of trauma. And usually, most artists, they work through their trauma in their medium that they create with. Kelly has worked out some of her things through song, poets write poetry, artists paint. So you would think that we would have made music, but somehow in the middle of all of our trauma, I couldn't separate the work of music from the emotion of it. So we poured ourselves into this story. And when it came time to figure out, well, how do we get this story out to the world? After meeting with a few people, we learned that maybe we could start our own publishing company and do this ourselves and not give up something so precious to us that we've spent so much time creating and not give it to someone else's hands. Even though possibly they could have made it bigger or more successful, we really wanted to do this ourselves. So we started the publishing company about 2.5 years ago, at the same time, so that we could launch our own books. You know this, Peri, from setting up so many of your companies and businesses. Once you set up the infrastructure for one client, it's so easy just to might as well keep it going. So we decided that we were going to make our infrastructure available for other authors. And we've now signed 2 authors, which is really exciting. It's one thing to say you have your own publishing company for yourself. Now we're doing it for other people. And that's really exciting and scary at the same time. We succeed epically and we fail epically. So I hope that this is a succeed epically moment.
I remember we had met you for lunch like 2.5 years ago, and you had said you were starting to write. And we said, oh, that's so interesting. You know, are you going to look for a publisher? And you said, well, I bought a publishing company. And we laughed in your face because it was so funny, but it was so like, yeah, of course you did. Why wouldn't you? And we just said, yeah, why wouldn't he?
At that time, we were actually trying to buy out a publishing company, and that fell through. But what we learned in the process, we just started one from scratch. It was a little bit of fear, and let's just go ahead and take over what someone else started. But it's been so refreshing just to do it ourselves.
It's also been really hard too. Trying to write the books on top of running the company has really taken a lot out of us. And then, of course, you all know his first full-time job on top of that. These first 2.5 to 3 years of getting this up off the ground has been really, really hard. So I don't want to paint it as, yay, we did it. But I'm happy we did it, and we've learned so much, and I'm proud of what we've created. If there's any entrepreneurs or business people that are listening, it's taken us almost 3 years before we're actually starting to see a profit. And even at that, it's not been much of a profit, but it's good. It means that we're doing something right.
Do you set your own deadlines? Like, we have to finish this book by a certain time, and then if you do set your own deadlines, how are you still able to be creative? Peri just signed with a publisher. She has to write. And I keep thinking, Peri, what if you're not creative? Because she writes, it just pours out of her, and then she edits it. Is that the process for you? And have you ever gotten stuck knowing that you have a deadline coming up? And what do you do to get around that?
Yeah, it's the benefit of having a partner in this. If I was doing this by myself or Rhonda by herself, we would approach it so differently. I mean, we're both creative and we're both administrative, but I work as a creative. And so to me, a deadline, you can't force me to create. How am I going to create? And if it's not ready, and then Rhonda will say, but this is our deadline, we have to have it then. And I turn it in then. And then as we're proofreading, all these new ideas. Most of our big moments in the books came after our deadline was over.
Yes. So Jason works better under pressure, and I do not. So we are complete opposites of each other. So for us, I did my part under the deadline in my head. Now, we would always say, hey, we want to launch this book on this date, and we'd give ourselves plenty of time to do it. So as you're writing and unfolding and you're going, okay, by this month, I need this much done. By this month, I need this much done. I am that structured one that has those goals. I will do that, and I will make sure I get it done. And then I pass it over to him, and I'm like, okay, you've got 1 month or you've got 2 weeks, whatever it is. And I love this man, but it drives me nuts because he just goes, I don't feel it. I don't know what to say yet. It'll come to me. And I'm just going,
The balance of the process is, because she's giving me deadlines and I do start, that triggers her creativity. Like for too long, even in my songwriting, I've rested on, I'll create whenever I start feeling it. There's something about doing the work and sitting down and starting it. So, Peri, you're carrying both roles because you're so task oriented and business minded, and I've seen how you work in that capacity in your other businesses. And then you're also creative. And so I say stick to the work and the deadline, but then also give yourself some freedom. I mean, you're going to live with this book forever. And so there's moments where we met a deadline and there's moments where we had to push it back. And I'm so glad we did, because sometimes that last 5% of creativity makes the 90% of the book happen.
Absolutely. And all of that came because it was the pressure. And that really is when his creativity just explodes under pressure. So now I've started giving him fake deadlines.
Oh my God, I do that also. I do that with my husband all the time. And then I say, I'm going to call the electrician on my own, that kind of thing. Peri is very task oriented, and she gets very creative when she has tanked up on coffee and chocolate and listening to music. And then that's when she just writes and writes and writes. And then she doesn't even remember doing it. It's very strange because she's very visual.
That happens to me too. And it's almost like you can't stop it. And you get it all out, like all the mistakes, no editing. And then you go back and read it. And I actually surprised
Who
myself.
did that?
That's
Right, you
what
don't
I
even
say.
know,
I'm
like,
like,
who did that?
wow.
At Team Peri, we're all about facing adversity and finding strength through it. Can you share the adversity you faced and how you worked through it to come out stronger on the other side?
I feel like I've lived that for the past probably 5 years. And I think I have more advice than I care to even want to have. I think for me personally, faith is a big part of my life. And I think that this world is just too big for me to do it alone. There's a supernatural power out there that gives us the strength to face adversity. And I think we can choose to tap into it. And if we don't, I think that's when it overtakes us. And then sometimes it can take you down. And I have kind of always been that kind of mind that, again, I'm pretty stubborn and I don't listen to instruction well. And I'm a fighter. And so if it starts to take me down, I'm just one of those people where I will scream it out and say, okay, come on, like, this is enough. Give me something to hang on to. And because I believe in it, I believe I can see it. That's what helps pull me through. It helps me to grasp onto something and not lose control and just face plant. Although I've face planted a couple of times. It's faith. I have to believe that there's something bigger than me. I have to believe there's something that's kind and helpful and generous, because honestly, I just don't think it's humankind we can do it on our own.
We both have a strong faith together, and part of that, along with faith, usually comes a really great community. And I think having really good community, good friends has helped us through these past 5 years. And for me, I went on a separate journey the last 2 years with my health problems, and having community to remind me of who I am. It's an adjustment when you've spent your whole life being able-bodied and vigorous and strong, and to all of a sudden have limitations that were new to me. That was a difficult time in my life, because during some of the emotional trauma leading up to it, I could pour myself into music and pour myself into work. And then as some physical health problems came with my cancer diagnosis a little over 2 years ago, when the physical couldn't do the same, that was a really tough space for me. And it was my faith that this wasn't the story that was planned for my life, and the community that came alongside of me, and not always just happy lovey, but hey, that's not who you are. You're going to get through this. You need to remember this. That was a big part of it for me.
I think life altering experiences cause you to take stock in priorities, good or bad. Sometimes it's just time to stop and then reassess and figure out how you want the future to look. And sometimes when it completely stops you from doing what you normally do, that's just a good time to take the moment and reassess. That's what we've done. We've had so many blows that have knocked us down that when I hit the ground, it's just, okay, I will release and I will reassess, and what is important to us, what's important to our family, what's important to our future, and try to grow from it, learn from it. And sometimes life's going to knock the wind out of you, but what are you going to do with it? Is the question I ask myself.
I worry sometimes that when these life-altering things happen and you reassess everything, like you said, you forget about it after a while. And then things just go on the same. I would hope that you would retain at least something from what happened. But it's very hard to carry that with you if, you don't keep it in the front of your mind all the time. That thing that changed you.
But you have to be intentional about it. We understand that it's good for you to work out, or it's good for you to take care of your house and to keep things in order. We have to be intentional with our minds, renewing our minds daily, writing things down, remembering. And that's what the book has been for us. It's like, it's almost been a remembering of what happens. And so every interview we do, every time it comes up, every friend that reads it, it's a reminding. And we tell lots of stories to people. I think we keep those things alive so that we can remain thankful.
I think the one thing that really helped me, and then I believe also gave us the courage to write these books, was I started journaling. So when I was down in the pits and thinking, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to move forward? What does the future look like? I just started journaling and pouring my heart out. And if you looked at my journal, the pages would be warped because there were a lot of tears on those pages, but you write it out and you put those emotions down. And what I found is about once a year, I go back and I read the previous year and I remember what that pain was, but then I remember the wisdom that I got from it. And so it is a renewing of the mind. Remind yourself what's important, remind yourself what's good, remind yourself of what it is that you want to change your future, and write it down. There's that deepening of your memory core when you write. It's a physical action, but it does something to your brain. And so like Jason said, that developed into writing these books. And now we can reread our own books and go, oh, I remember what sparked that. I remember what caused that. I remember where that story came from. So I think that's how we remember. It's how we try not to go back.
I know Peri's writing and she's reliving every horrible moment in her life, but with humor, but she's reliving her entire childhood right now. And I don't know a lot of it. She held a lot in over the years.
Even though our book is fiction, there's scenes that were based on real experiences in our childhoods. And we struggled with, what is so-and-so going to think when they read this? Peri's experiences are Peri's experiences. And that's what she went through. And these are things we did. If somebody else has a perspective of that, that's fine. That's their story. And I've seen other artists even write songs about family members or parents and things. It's probably painful for the parents to relive some of those moments, but there's also something great that the artist has worked out those issues enough to where they're able to say it to the parent or to the caretakers or anybody around them.
I do think that's a good thing to do. And Peri, that's actually what you're doing, is you're unpacking some of those emotions. What I found when I was writing is the first probably 6 to 9 months was really hard, lots of tears, and not just because I was struggling with writing because I'm dyslexic, but because of the emotions that I was trying to put into the books. They weren't our one-to-one story, but they were our one-to-one emotions. So I could remember where that emotion came from, but I just created a different story. So I would cry it out again and again and again and again, and I would reread it over and over and over. Not necessarily to desensitize me, but to be able to handle that emotion. I unpacked it, and now I need to see it, and I didn't want to put it back. And that's the hard part. You don't have to put it back, but getting through it is the hard part. And so I actually commend you. I think it's amazing that you can go back and touch some of those hard things. Don't be afraid to cry it out as you're writing it. And then don't be afraid to reread it and cry it out again, and just do that. And it's so therapeutic that you actually get to the point to where you're like, I'm okay now. I don't have to hang on to that anymore. And I don't know how it works, but it works.
So these 3 books, obviously very personal because they're based on your life. Were you ever worried about who is going to want to read them? Or we're pouring our hearts out into something. How is it going to be received? Were you ever worried? Peri said she wants people to read it, but she's doing it for herself. It has to come out. Were you feeling the same? You just had to get it out?
We didn't even start thinking about who was reading it until we were almost done. This was just a story we had to get out. And that's the great thing about the human experience. Is like, even though some people may not have experienced some of the things we did, or some people have experienced worse, the emotions are still the same. The emotions are universal. Very few people will have the actual experiences that you're having, Peri, but they will be able to relate to those emotions. And so I think that's where you find your audience. This was our version of therapy, was writing this out. At some point, for me, when I was going to a therapist during some of these really hard times with losing people, the process of talking about it, unpacking that suitcase, was just so exhausting to me. I was going to therapy trying to find a way to heal from this, and I felt like we were just
poking the
wound every single time to create this complete fantasy world. At first, I thought it was unhealthy. I'm like, okay, we're not going to do this. We're just going to pour ourselves into this imaginary world, these imaginary people. And it was actually extremely therapeutic for us. We found out after the fact there's actually a form of therapy that mirrors that, where you externalize your trauma through stories. So your brain doesn't say, oh, this is me. No, that's that character. And your brain processes things through that. So inadvertently, it was a form of therapy for us. But all that said, that wasn't intentional. We weren't writing this to be a bestseller. We weren't writing this with somebody in mind. We wanted to get this story out for ourselves.
When we got really close to the end, can't even tell you how many times I read through Caretaker, the first one, just probably 100 times. And I did it for the 100th time, cried all the way through it again. And I looked at Jason and then I said, I don't care if anybody else reads this. Like, I had to do it just for me. I had to get it out. And if no one else cares about it, I'm actually okay. I'm okay. Because I did what I set out to do. However, I feel like because I do think that there was some truth that was revealed through our journey, and we put that into our story, that I believe truth is truth. And so if it could help us, maybe it could help someone else. So that's what got me through maybe we should release this. And that was so scary for me because it felt so vulnerable, but I wouldn't change it. Like, I'm so, so happy that we did. I'm so happy I got past my fears. And at the very, very beginning, I was definitely worried, will people read too much into this? Because it really is fiction. It is not based on our lives. But we just thought, well, people are going to assume this is who we are, and that's not who I am. And then you just get past it because at that point, it was for me. And I was happy with what we did for me. And then put it out into the world. And if people love it, awesome. If they don't, that's okay.
Perry's will be a little different because she's writing a memoir. This is going to be really her. People can't second guess everything really happened.
That's absolutely the bravest thing, to put it out there in public, because the public can be harsh and the public can be brutal. The number one thing I think I learned at the very beginning, I've never read any of our reviews. And Jason tells me that there are some bad ones out there. I won't read them. I don't need to read them. It's their opinion. It doesn't change our story. It doesn't change my choices going forward. It doesn't change how I'm going to write the next book. Like, it doesn't influence my life. So I just keep it on the other side of the computer and I just don't read them.
I've gotten used to reading things over the years with my music career. There's people that never gonna like anything that I do. There's a percentage of the Kelly community, a very small one, that thinks I'm the worst thing that's ever happened to music. And I laugh when I read it. I mean, they're brutal, but I'd love to meet one in particular one day. But it doesn't affect me in that way. I'm just like, you know what? As long as I've given my best to something, I could really care less if somebody likes it or not. Somebody's going to like what I do. As long as I've worked hard at it, then I can't do anything else. So this is who we are.
Being on the subject of Caretaker, Peri started a new project through her foundation called the Peri Project. So this is through the Team Peri Foundation. And the Peri Project is focusing on caretakers, oddly enough. What we're doing is, when Peri was younger, she was in the hospital for months and weeks at a time, and she saw that it played a very big toll on her siblings and myself and her father. And he spent every night in the hospital. I would spend every day. And the focus is always on the patient, which it should be, but the parents get very burnt out. So Peri decided she wanted to focus on the caretaker, the caregiver in the hospital, a parent who's there. We make self-care bags and we partner with child life centers, and we've seen a ripple effect.
I know that you both understand what it's like to be a caregiver, whether for each other or others. In your own words, how does it feel to be a caregiver? What do you wish other people knew to get through the hard times as someone who is taking care of someone else?
First of all, you've brought tears to my eyes, so I'm going to probably choke up on this one. I've been a caregiver for 12, 13 years. It started in 2014. My daughter was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And then after we got her through her treatment of that, 6 months later, she was diagnosed with a second cancer. Both times the doctors told her that her prognosis was not good. So I've been a caretaker for a very long time. The fact that you are considerate of that and reaching out to parents to help take care of them and turn it around for them, gosh, that's an amazing mission that you're on. And it was probably one of the hardest seasons of our lives to continually wake up, which I'm sure you know, and wonder what's today going to look like and how hard is this going to be and are we going to get through it? And to have a support team to be able to come around you and go, hey, we know what you're going through. We know what you're feeling. Here's some things to just kind of brighten your day, give you some support. That's just huge.
Because I remember a few times where somebody had brought us dinner in the hospital. Like at times you were so desperate because there's only so many times you can go to a vending machine, or you didn't want to leave the hospital because you didn't want to miss anything. So then you just said, I'm not going to eat. I didn't know that Peri was so aware of it because she was really sick. I couldn't imagine how she would be aware of it.
The first 2 years we were taking care of our daughter, we don't know if she's going to live or not. It's like, how can I enjoy a good meal? How can I enjoy a nice bath? It just seems like the most silly thing in the world to just take care of ourselves. After a couple of years, we tried to learn how to take care of ourselves better. And even if it's just for the sake of the person you're caring for, to refuel yourself, get your oxygen. And we went straight from that to Rhonda caring for her mother for an extended period of time with dementia, and then caring for my mom, and then Rhonda stepped into caring for me. It's exhausting physically, and then, as you know, it's exhausting mentally, the guilt you feel for even getting burnt out. It's just like, how can I get burnt out? Support and freedom and conversation, and just somebody showing up with a reminder to, hey, go take a minute, take care of yourself is huge.
Right.
Having someone come with a fresh bowl of macaroni and cheese for your family is the best.
Right. What's your walk-off song? The song that describes you now.
I think my walk-off song, not lyrically, just the music, the way it makes you feel, is Bittersweet Symphony. It's very Ecclesiastes. It's very, you know what, life is good, life is bad, life, things happen.
Mine would be Steve Perry, Don't Stop Believing. Because I feel like I've had to tell myself that as I'm walking through, just don't stop believing.